Hello. Hi, my name is Mary Rao, and this is my mother.
Elaine Whitland.
Do you want to tell them how long we've been with the parish?
We've been here since day one, and we truly appreciate our parish and the people in it.
Yes. So we're going to talk to you today about the darkness to light. We're going to talk about a couple situations that our family has gone through that some may think that it was darkness. We had a really dark time in 2008. I had a brother, my brother Daryl. He was 58 years old, and he suddenly died of a heart attack. And that was a very sad night that he died. We all loved Daryl, but we understood at 58 that he was going to heaven and going to be with God. So we as a family were working through and dealing with the initial grief. We buried my brother Daryl in a Catholic family cemetery in Victor, Iowa, which is 80 miles east of here. It was on a Monday afternoon. And on the way home, there was a terrible accident that involved other family members. We lost my nephew, Dylan Wetland. He was 17. He was beautiful. He was vibrant. He was ornery. And we miss Dylan every day. My nephew, Austin, was also in the back seat. Austin survived the accident. However, the darkness was that we didn't know if Austin was going to make it. So we followed life flight to Iowa City that night. And I sent my husband home with my mom because we were dealing with the loss of my brother and now the loss of Dylan. And so I stayed in Iowa City with Austin for 2 weeks. At the beginning, we didn't know if we were going to have to postpone Dylan's funeral to have Austin. We didn't know if Austin was going to make it. My mom came up the next morning with my husband, and I remember this vividly. It's not Austin's time. God is not going to take Austin. It was a horrible time for my mother as she raised Austin since he was 3 years old. But at that moment in her faith, she knew everything was going to be okay. Every little thing was going to be okay. But at that moment, it was not okay. We had a hard time praying, and that's okay. You have to understand that. It's okay if you have a hard time praying. You rely on your community, your church community, to lift you up in prayer. So when you hear someone say, I need you to pray for the family, please pray for that family. Get on your knees or bow your hands, bow your head, and pray because they're in a dark time. So, Mom, do you want to talk a little bit about how the church lifted you up and Janet?
I remember very well, Janet stopped by to see me, and I told her I couldn't pray. I just can't pray. And she said, this is a time that we're praying for you. And so I don't know, but I always felt that the Lord would take care of us because many ways every day he tells us he's at our side. And I would tell Austin every morning, you're going to be okay because the Lord has a mission for you. And today he's 29 and is a supervisor of the UPS plant in Ames. So God is good.
God
Just
is good.
believe that.
Yep. So we went to darkness to light. It took us a while to get out of the darkness to come to the light, but we have a strong family. We have a very strong faith, and thankfully we have Saints John and Paul Parish to lift us up. Austin, like he said, he is persevering. He's 30 years old. And that day changed our lives. We see things differently. So even through the darkness, we're not the same family. We are still grieving Dylan and Daryl. However, we celebrate their lives and we don't sweat the small things all the time, because the small things really don't matter. And we make sure that if others are in the darkness, that we help to bring them to the light. And that's also important. Another time in our lives that we had a little bit of darkness, my son Joshua, some of you may know, was diagnosed with leukemia as he was going into his freshman year. And I will never forget the day we went into the oncology clinic, and we went in at 9. By 11 o'clock, we found out he had leukemia. By 1 o'clock that day, he had his first dose of chemotherapy, okay? The doctor came in to tell Josh is an only child, and that's a whole different story. But the doctor came in and told Josh he had leukemia. Him and his dad were with him. And Josh looked at the doctor and said, "Am I going to die?" Imagine that, a 13-year-old asking that question. The doctor looked straight at Josh and said, "We've come a long way with leukemia. You have an 80% chance of survival." Okay, so that initial darkness became a little bit of a light when Josh heard 80%. Josh looked at his dad and I and said, "We got this." So we took off that day. We were going down to get chemo, and I told his grandma, stay home. And of course, she didn't listen to me, which she doesn't sometimes. She met us in the hospital going down, and the two of them started crying and embraced each other. And that is part of the light. We knew we were going to have some tough times, but we knew through our family and our faith we were going to be okay. The church literally wrapped their arms around my son. Okay? Josh has a strong relation. It's not even a relationship. He's friends with Father Tim. Father Tim needs a couple of pigs. He calls Josh and says, "Josh, hook me up." And that's the lightness. Josh was very involved with the Children's Cancer Connection when he was going through cancer. And what had the light that has come out of cancer, we always look at the good things. There's a cancer, there's a camp in the summer for siblings of kids that have cancer and the kids that have cancer. What we have done the last 10 years, we've made fleece blankets. Yay, this is a butterfly, the spirit of flying and living. We've made 1,400 of these in the last 10 years. And my son Josh is now 24. And you know what? He comes every year. He goes out and buys the fleece because this is important to him. He makes these blankets, and he's pretty darn good at it. He was able to raise a lot of money for the Children's Cancer Connection. He was able, high school did not go well because he was sick a lot. However, he was able to graduate. He went off to DMAC and received his associate's degree in egg management. And now he works at the co-op in Indianola for 3 years. And he is a farmer, and he has strong relationships with a lot of those elderly farmers that come in. So he is persevering. He loves his grandma. He comes in every week, every Sunday. It used to be every day, but he comes in a couple times a week to make sure grandma's okay. So there is lightness. Do you want to talk about Josh a minute?
I just have to tell you about the blankets at Children's Connection. On a Sunday afternoon, they gather outside the building, and there's a big tree, and some of the volunteers climb the tree with all the blankets, and all the little kids that have cancer are sitting down listening to stories about God, and all of a sudden these blankets just all fall down from the tree. And so we tell these little kids, God is with you. So
Yes.
remember that. But we have I have a huge family. We're happy. And I might not have a dime in my pocket, but I have everything I need. Goodbye.
So one more thing, and then we'll let you go, because
That's
you're probably wondering why I'm wearing a hat. Well, the reason I'm wearing a hat, we had one more, well, we've had a few but we don't care about the darkness because we overcome. So I was diagnosed myself with a bad cancer about 1.5 years ago. And it was a dark place there for a minute because I was very, very sick. And I was in the hospital for 17 days. And during that time, my mom would come up, and I was sick. I'm telling you, I was sick. She would want me to get up and get going. She didn't enjoy me being in the darkness. And it's just like, Mom, I'm sick. I can't get up. And finally, about 10 days into it, she was tired of me just laying there. Even though we're sick, we have to get up and we have to get moving. So my mom, with her praying and praying to the good Lord every day, help my daughter, help Mary get out of the darkness, help her get out. So I think it was on like day 10, I finally listened to you, and I know she's shaking her head, started getting out of the darkness. So I am cancer-free right now. Yay. And during the darkness with Josh, so we already went through this with Josh. And for him to have to go through, his mom may not make it, was really a bad time for him because he is a mama's boy. And we are a strong family. But he brought the lightness and taking care of me. Should a 23-year-old be a caretaker? No. And he wasn't a caretaker. He was my son taking care of his mother, doing what should be done. My husband, right along with him. So because Josh and I went through something, well, exactly similar, our bond as a family and helping others is strong. Janet Elwer was a huge part of my lightness, so my husband could go back, could continue to work. I utilized my best friend, church friend, Janet. She comes and gets me and takes me to chemo, and she is my chemo buddy. And that has brought a huge amount of brightness to my life. Janet and I are direct opposites a little bit, so I have to teach her how to be a little ornery, and that's hard for Janet, but we have a great time doing that. I am wearing this hat. It's a beautiful hat. It was donation, and so if there's anyone that knows how to crochet, if you want to bring lightness, a little bit of lightness to those of us women that lose all of our beautiful hair, we love these little hats. So I'm praying that you are all in the light tonight. And if there is anyone going through a dark time right now, we will lift them up in prayer. Thank you for listening to our story. And I hope you're enjoying your evening. Is that it? Amen.